In this tutorial, you will learn how to use deadline funnels so that you can increase your sales by creating a sense of authentic urgency. But before I'm going to show you how to implement it on your website and inside your email campaigns, I first want to explain why this is the most important tool in my online business. So I started creating online courses in 2017. And my approach back then was basically this. I would just send an email out every single week on a Tuesday with something interesting, something valuable. And then once in a while, in one of those emails, I would mention my online courses and I would link to the sales page in some of those emails, because I also did not want to be too salesy, right? So every week, another email, and then in some of those emails, I would link to the sales page. But this was going all right. But the sales were really not that great. Like, some people would buy it, but not that many people. So that brings me to 2018. So about a year later, when I started experimenting with creating a sense of urgency. So I would still send out these weekly emails just to keep people engaged, to provide them value, and so on. So every week, another email. And then what I would do is once every few weeks, once every 2 months or something like that, I would have a big promotion. Could be like a product launch or maybe a promotion for one of my existing products. And then during this week, I would not send one email, I would not send 2 emails, and also not 3, not 4, but I would usually send something like 5 emails during this big promotion. And this promotion was something like, hey, for this week until this Friday, until midnight, you can get these bonuses and this discount, or maybe a combination of both of these, right? And this worked really fantastic. This was really a great way. I really learned then in 2018 that creating urgency really works, because people then are going to act now instead of postponing their decision because they don't want to miss out on this great deal, right? But this had 3 really big problems for me. So the first problem is that everyone would get this promotion, no matter if they're on my email list for 2 weeks or 2 years. I could just not really tailor special promotions to people who maybe just new onto the email list. And then problem number 2 is that during these weeks, and I had these weeks then a few times a year, I had lots of stress because a big part of my revenue was tied to these specific weeks. So I was always a bit scared that something maybe technically would go wrong somewhere, maybe something in my automations, maybe something on the website, and then I would miss out maybe on thousands of revenue because I put all my cards basically on these like few weeks during the year. Now then problem number 3, and it's maybe a little bit silly, but I always did the promotions till midnight onto a certain day, and then I actually had to stay up behind my computer till midnight to disable the promotion, because I also did not want to lie to people, right? That I tell them like, hey, it is valid till midnight, and then if they go after midnight, it's still available. I did not want that. So that brings me to what I'm doing now, and it looks a lot like this. So I'm still sending out those weekly emails just to keep people engaged, to provide them with helpful content, just so that they don't forget about me, right? And I'm also still doing promotions once in a while. But this time, and I think this is where the magic is, and this is also where I discovered Deadline Funnel, is that I learned how you can do evergreen promotions with evergreen deadlines. So instead of that I do a promotion that is starting for everyone at the same time, I can now start a promotion, for example, based on how long they are on the email list, on which pages they visited, how engaging they are with my emails. So I could say like, hey, okay, I'm just sending out my weekly emails, and then exactly 3 weeks, for example, after that they subscribed, I want to start this promotion. And this really blew my mind because I think this is so cool. So the promotion looks like this, right? So it would also start, for example, on a Tuesday, and the deadline would be on a Friday. And then I would send maybe, let's say, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 emails during that week. So we have this promotion, and like I said, it starts differently for different people depending on when they're, for example, on the email list. And I think what is so cool with Deadline Funnel is that in all these emails, I link to my sales page. But what I want to do is I want to make these offers also authentic, right? I could also say in all my emails like, hey, I have an offer this week. It's valid only this week till this Friday, blah, 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 blah. But then people could still access it the week after, the week after, the week after. And I think that's not so nice, because then you're basically just lying to people. We want to make the deadline authentic. And that you can do with Deadline Funnel, because what we can do, instead of linking directly to the sales page, we basically link to a special link from Deadline Funnel. And this link from Deadline Funnel is then basically checking like, okay, the deadline for this person, did this already expire yet? Yes or no? If it did not expire yet, then we just redirect them to the sales page. People don't even realize this, right? But then if the deadline did expire, then we send them to a page that says like, hey, sorry, the offer expired. And then on top of that, what we can also do with Deadline Funnel is that we can also add timers to our sales page and also timers to our emails to make it more visual when the deadline is expiring. So really to like create that sense of urgency. So this system, I discovered that now maybe 2-3 years ago, and it really, I've been doing this ever since because it works so well. So we're basically going to create evergreen promotions that are going to start depending on when that person enters your funnel, basically, right? So either when they visit maybe a certain page or maybe based on how long they are already on your email list. So now that you understand this, why it's such a great tool, let's now dive into Deadline Funnel, and then we'll show you how you can actually integrate all these things. So the very first thing that you need to do is you need to start a free trial from Deadline Funnel if you do not have an account yet. If you want to support me, then you can use my affiliate link in the description below. I get a little commission at no extra cost to you. So I already went over this whole process, and you can see that I have an account over here right now. And just as a quick overview, what we're going to do, first we're going to add the tracking code to the website so the Deadline Funnel can redirect people away from the offer pages when their dynamic deadline expired. And then I want to show you how we have a regular checkout page and how we can turn that into more of like a promotion page, where we're also then going to add an inline countdown timer and also some dynamic text and dynamic text timers to boost that urgency even more. And then when that offer is expired, I want to show you how we can redirect people to an offer expired page. And then last but not least, I also want to show you how we can integrate Deadline Funnel with our email service provider. So I'm going to use ActiveCampaign, but if you use something else, then that is no problem. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is we need to add the tracking code to our website. And it depends a bit on how your website is built. Also depends on how you actually want to implement it. But for example, what you can do if you're using WordPress, maybe it's the easiest way, is you go over to your account, advanced, and then you go to code snippets, and then you can download the WordPress plugin over here. What you can also do, and that's what I personally do, is I copy the code over here, and then you can either just add it to your header.php file, and that way it will just load on all the pages of your website. Or what you can also do, and that's what I'm doing, is that you copy the code and then you only add it to the promotion pages that you are using, where you want to redirect people away from when the offer is expired. So over here, I already created this promotion checkout page, right? And it probably depends on how your website is made, but I can just go here to edit page. And then at the top of the page over here, I go to raw JavaScript. And then I just paste this in here. I click here, save, I click update. And now the code is added to this promotion page, because that's actually the only page where I need this, right? And then if you have more promotions, more promotion pages, then you just individually add that code to those pages. And that way it doesn't load anywhere else on your website where you do not want it to. Now then, after we have done that, we can create our first campaign. So we go over here to new campaign. And then the first thing that we need to do is we need to give the campaign a name. So just do something that makes sense to you, right? So I would say here 20% discount and bonuses, because that's the offer they're going to get. And then the category, what I like to do is I like to categorize them by product name so that they can also easily have multiple offers per product, right? Now then you need to select your email provider and your landing page builder. So I'm using ActiveCampaign and WordPress. So then we go to next, and then we go on the blueprint page, which I think is actually a really cool page because it also gives you really cool ideas of what is possible with Deadline Funnel. So what I just showed you was an email sequence with a special limited time offer. offer. But you can, for example, also generate a deadline after an automated webinar, or use it for holidays or fixed days promotions, for example, Black Friday. Or which one I also think is pretty cool is you can also use it for a 15-minute opt-in upsell. So somebody is downloading like a checklist or a cheat sheet. They go to a page. As soon as they come onto that page, the deadline is generated for 15 minutes into the future. And then also a countdown timer will show on that page like, hey, super cool that you just downloaded this cheat sheet. If you want right now for the next 15 minutes, you can buy this or that for this special price. Or this one is also pretty cool. Here you can also have a special offer, not based on time, but based on the amount of buyers. I think that's also really great. Now, for this example, we're going to use the email sequence and the special offer. So that's this automation over here, right? So here I'm going to click use this template, and then we have to integrate with ActiveCampaign or with your email service provider. So usually it's going to ask you for the API URL and the API key. So inside ActiveCampaign, we can go over to settings, and then we go over to developer, and then over here you find the URL and the key. So I copy these and paste this in here, and then over here I click integrate. And then you see that the webhook URL is generated, and this webhook is especially important if you want to trigger and generate that unique deadline for that person in your email service provider. So not based on a page visit, but based on when you trigger that webhook inside an automation. And that's really great because then you can basically decide when you want to start that deadline, when you want to start that promotion for that person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL. I go over to ActiveCampaign, and then in ActiveCampaign, you see that I have this waiting step at the top. So it says wait until the current day of the week in the context time zone is Tuesday. So when it's Tuesday, as soon as it's Tuesday, I want to start this promotion, and then I also want to generate the unique deadline for this person. So I'm going to add the webhook over here. And in case you do not know, a webhook is basically just a way for applications to talk to each other. So in this case, ActiveCampaign is going to send over the context data to Deadline Funnel, so that Deadline Funnel knows like, this deadline for John Doe is going to be 4 days in the future. Okay, generate. And then whenever they get these emails later on, Deadline Funnel still knows like, okay, the deadline for this person already expired or not. So that's pretty cool, right? Now then we go over here to next, and then we have to set the deadline length. So here it depends a little bit on what you want to do. You can, for example, say, okay, I want my deadline to be 4 days, and then I want to end it on a specific time. So what I did over here is inside my automation, I said, wait until the current day of the week is Tuesday. So I know that as soon as they're going to get into the webhook, it is in the middle of the night. It is midnight. So I do not want to do this. What I want to do instead is I want to say here, I want my deadline to be 96 hours. So that's basically 4 days. So just think well about that, what you want to do. But so I'm going to say here 96 hours, and also all the wait steps underneath here. You see here 10 hours, 24 hours, 24 hours, 24 hours, 5, 6, 3 hours. That adds up to 96 hours in total. Now then the time zone doesn't matter so much, but just for reporting, I'm going to put it on my own time zone. And then over here, I go to next. And then you see over here, there we have the funnel steps. So basically what it's asking us to do, okay, please insert the promotion page and then also the offer expired page. So I have this page over here. So this is my regular checkout page. And then I would recommend to create separate promotion page basically. So in this case it's checkout pages, but you can also do the same for sales pages, right? And then I'm going to copy this and I will put this here and then redirect after the deadline to, so that's this page that I created over here. It's very simple, right? This is like, hey, sorry, the offer is expired. It seems like you're a bit late, but if you want, you can still purchase it for the regular price. So then also make sure to include a button that goes back to the regular sales page, right? Now then I insert that over here and then I'm going to click finish. And then our basic setup for the campaign is done, but that doesn't mean that we are also done because we still have to do a few things. So the first thing that I personally always do is I go over to pages. And then you see right here that we have a floating bar. And then over here, you see the URL before the deadline. So this is basically the offer page. And then the URL where people will be redirected to after the deadline. So that's the offer expired page. And right now it says floating bar. And that looks like this. If I will refresh this page now, then you see in the bottom here, we have this floating bar. And you can also style this, and I think it looks actually quite great. But I think, for example, here on the checkout page, I think it's a bit too disruptive. So what I want to do is I want to add an inline timer to this page. So what I'm going to do here, I change this to inline timer. And then you see over here, page updated. And then what I want to do here is I click here on edit settings. And this is the code that I need to add that inline timer to that page. Now that's pretty simple. So I go over here and then we first refresh to see if the floating bar is gone. You see the floating bar is gone. And then I want to add this inline timer over here. So I'm going to edit my page. And then what I want to do is I want to add it down here. So we're going to here search for the HTML block. So here is a raw HTML. And then I will add the code that I just copied for that inline timer. And then I will drag it up here. And obviously this is probably a little bit different on your website, right? But it can never be that much different. And I think this probably helps with figuring out where and how you copy and paste a code. So then I go back to this page and then see if something happened. So then over here right now, ta-da, you see like an inline timer. Now, it doesn't look so nice. So what I would then usually do is I go over here to edit appearance, and then we can also style the timer. For example, here say, okay, I want to insert my yellow branding. And then you can also do some other things over there, but I'll leave that for another time. So then here I see if this worked. And then you see now that we have this yellow timer over here. Okay, great. So then what I want to do is I want to add also some dynamic text to this page. So what I'm going to do over here, I click here add page. And then I think this is maybe a little bit confusing, but they basically just want you to add the same page again. So I'm going to copy the offer page, then I paste that in here, and then down here we go to display dynamic text timer. Then over here you already see the code for that timer also, but first we also have to enter the offer expired page. So I will add that in here, and then I'm going to copy this text. Now then right now you see that we have this over here and this text here in the bottom that says you are covered by a 30-day money back guarantee. Now this is already on a few other places also. So what I want to do is I want to experiment with adding a dynamic text timer down here, so that not only here it will show people how much time they have left, but also down there. So we will edit this, and then I go down here, and then you see over here that we have this. I go here to raw HTML, I paste this in here. And then what I want to do is I want to remove this. And then here I will change this H2 to a paragraph. So I do not want this text to be too big. So right now it says deal is over in blah, blah, blah hours, minutes. And then I will say here offer. I want to change this text a bit. Expires in blah, blah days, comma, hours, and then end seconds. And then I also want to center this. So I just quickly do it like this. So this is maybe a little bit intimidating if you do not know HTML so well, but there's plenty of examples if you Google a bit about how you can change text like this. So here I'll click here update, and then we can just see what that looks like right now, right? So I go here to the page. And then right here, you see now that it says offer expires in blah, blah days, minutes, and seconds. But you see there is no dynamic input there yet. So here, what we probably first have to do here is we have to click save. So right now, if I refresh this page, then you'll see that there's an inline timer and dynamic text. And I'll refresh this again. And then right now you see that it says offer expires in 3 days, 23 hours, 52 minutes, and 23 seconds. And you can see that this is also in sync with this inline timer over here, right? And I think this is super powerful to mention this a few times on your page. Now then what you can also do is you can even also add a personalized deadline to that page. So not only mention how much time there's left, but also mention when that deadline expires. And I think that's very powerful. So they explain that over here in this help article. And then we need this code down here. Let me see. So here it says spawn class deadline text. This text will be replaced with the leads deadline. So I'm going to copy this. Then I will go back here to the page. I will edit this. And then I want to add this to the top of the page. So right now it says complete the form below and become a master in Magic. And then I'm going to add this over here. Let's just do it like this. So I say here, paragraph end, and then complete the form, become a master in Magic. And what shall we make out of this? Magic before the offer expires at. And then we have to give like a fallback here. That's why I would say here this before the offers expires at this. Now we'll just put in there this Friday right now. Then we click here, save changes. We go here to update. And then let's see what that looks like right now. So it's sometimes also a little bit of like experimenting, see what works. So right here it says like, hey, complete the form below, become a master in Magic before the expires at Monday at 8+4 CET, right? So you see here this deadline text that we can then dynamically insert based on when the deadline was started for that person. So I think this is pretty cool. And if you want, you can also change this format. So right over here, if you go to settings and then to the bottom, then here you see deadline format. So right now it says over here, this like whole text of like, hey, Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I just want to change this to the day. So here, click save. Then I go back over to that page to see if that worked. So then right now it says like before the offer expires at Monday. Like how cool is that? So now we have this inline timer over here. We have a dynamic text timer down here. And we have dynamically the deadline text up there. I really think this is super duper powerful. So now we're basically done with this page. Then we'll take it to the next level. We want to also integrate this into our emails. So we go over here and we go to emails. And then there is basically two things we need to do. We need to insert email links to our emails. So we're going to copy this link over here. And then we go over to the emails where we want to use it. So obviously I would want to use it in all these emails right now. But just as an example, we're going to edit one email. So that is an email that says like, hey, 9 hours till the deadline. And then over here, we say here, just a heads up, there are 9 hours left before you can get the offer for Magic Mastery. Remember, you'll get, see you in the inside. And then here I would say, grab the offer. And then we insert a link. So here, link, and I paste the link in here. And then you can also see that it dynamically inserts the personalization tag for the email address to that URL. And this is really cool because people will be redirected to this offer page, right? But then, even if they're on a different device, Deadline Funnel is going to check in their database when their deadline or when the offer is supposed to expire for them. And I think that's super cool. So you always want to make sure that if you're going to use this inside your email campaigns, that you're going to insert the special Deadline Funnel links. Now then, what we want to do is we want to insert the email timer. So first I want to edit the appearance a bit. So right now it looks like this. I really don't like that. I want to change it to, now let's see, for example, to this. Looks a bit like what I have on the website. So then I go here and I want to change the black to yellow. So now it looks like this. Okay, perfect. And then I click here, save and exit. And then I want to copy this HTML code. We go over to my email. And then right here in the bottom, it says PS. Here's a handy timer to show you how much time you have left. Now then I'm going to insert a HTML block. Then it says here, click here to add some HTML. And then I click here, save. And then now the dynamic timer will be inserted to this email. So now what we basically created and what is happening is that, okay, we can decide whenever we want to start a promotion for anyone on our email list, for example, then we can start that. We can generate a deadline with Deadline Funnel. And then we can send out emails. And then inside our emails, we can then link people to that special Deadline Funnel link that's going to redirect them to the offer page or the offer expired page if the offer already expired. Then we can also insert these super cool timers to show them how much time they have left. So further increase that urgency, right? And then when they come to this offer page, they see the same exact timer here, down here, and also the deadline up here. And all these deadlines are in sync with when we originally generated that deadline from within that webhook inside that automation. So I personally think this stuff is truly amazing, and I hope that this helps you to understand a bit how Deadline Funnel works. I realize that it is a little bit techy with like adding these codes here, adding the inline timer code there, but as soon as you figure that out, how to copy these codes and how to add them to your website, it's going to be super easy. And then you have a really powerful tool to basically create like a sales machine for yourself that is just like running the whole year, that starts promotions and promotions and promotions, depending on when someone is, for example, adding to your email list, when somebody just finished a webinar, when somebody just finished like a free email course, stuff like that, or when they just like opted in. I really think this is really super, super duper cool. So I hope this helps, and if you have any questions about it, just let me know in the comments below.